Cool, let's go live. This is James Maduke speaking. We got everything working here, sound, video, cameras, we're all in shape. Today I want to talk about something that kind of cool. It's actually, I'm going to talk about podcasts or podcasting and online courses and how-to material. And I'm going to give you some links to some really great AI tools that you can use not only to really create great how-to podcasts, but more importantly, host them and distribute them. So promotion, distribution, podcasts, online courses, how does this all fit in together? Well, if you're thinking about an online course and you're unsure of it, you're looking at all these AI tools, ways to figure it out. One of the things you might start with, and way I started, was with podcasting. And a long time ago, I started an audio-only podcast called 52 Secrets My Mom Never Told Me About Internet Marketing. And of course, each episode was about one of these secrets. So that's how I started out a long time ago. And a lot of people today are finding it easier to kind of not structure a whole big course, but about talking about something on a regular basis that they already know about, they love doing, they're interested in. So what's the big deal here with podcasting versus a course? And what's the difference between a how-to podcast and a traditional podcast? So here's kind of my my gist at it. So if I look at, and let's try this over on this side, we'll see if my camera's in the right place. There we go. So if I look at, and I'm playing around with what I'm going to do with a podcast or the stuff that I'm going to be sharing online, whether it's a YouTube channel that I have, or it might be something where I'm just talking into my phone and recording it. But if you are doing something that is how-to or instructional, that is teaching someone how to actually or answer questions or includes a process or some steps, technically it's a how-to podcast. The thing is that is it going to be all in one kind of session, or is it something that happens over time as things change and stuff happens when you're working through all of this? So, you know, a how-to podcast has a couple things that are a little bit different that you should really know about and think about as you're doing this. So the first thing is with a how-to podcast, it's instructional content. Instructional content. And so it's about educating the listener, breaking down complex tasks into steps, and it's not necessarily about entertaining the listener or the viewer, okay? Oftentimes, again, with a podcast, the focus is on the instructor or the person that's actually giving the talk or hosting the podcast. It's their subject matter, something like that, and they may invite a guest, but the focus is on you, the person who is hosting, or it's your podcast. And again, you're the knowledgeable one. You may bring someone in to complement or supplement it, but the focus is definitely on you. The other thing is with a how-to podcast, this is strictly practical tips and steps. So this is something that allows you to kind of tick off boxes or check marks or have a list of things to do. It's not huge, esoteric, deep thought kind of things. It's all about some actionable steps that people can follow after the fact. And the actual podcasts are step by step. So it's usually chunked down to this is step 1 that we do in this episode. This is step 2 that we do in this episode. And you go through a series of steps. So here's some examples of maybe what you might consider for a how-to podcast or something that's more along those lines, like how to start a business, how to create and market a podcast, how to improve public speaking skills, how to lose weight, or how to exercise over 40, or how to start a new job when you retire, or how to earn money when you retire. But how to write a novel, how to play piano. These are all things that don't have a single answer, but involve processes or things that you have to do when you're going through this. So the big difference is, in all of these ones, is the content is definitely focused differently. So instructional content, and again, over a period of steps. Traditional podcasts may have a focus that's all over the place, and it's about general instructions, storytelling. It's often about the other person that you're bringing in as the guest or the person that you're interviewing. And the big thing is, I think the difference is that many podcasts, when you think of a podcast, it's, oh, I have to entertain someone. I have to be funny or exciting, or you have to be someone that is so enticing that people come to be excited by you, but more importantly, the guests that you bring, or have an interest of something outside of you as the podcast host. So, a traditional podcast, again, is very flexible. There's not a listing of steps that go through. It can go off on tangents, very, very fluid, as opposed to a how-to podcast where you generally have some kind of script, or at least a path or talking point that you want to go through it. The other thing is the intent. The intent of a how-to podcast is, again, you want to give someone some answers to specific questions or specific tasks or steps they can take to get a particular result. When you're doing anything to do with the audience of that kind of one, they're there to learn the steps. On the other hand, a traditional podcast, they're there often just to hear your stories or hear the guests that you have. It's not about what's in the podcast, it's what the podcast is about. The other thing is the engagement. The engagement's different. The value of what you share in a how-to podcast determines the amount of engagement. Is the value something that's simple and easily followed, or are there follow-up questions or follow-up pieces that are involved in? It's almost like people pay more attention to a how-to podcast because that intent is to learn something as opposed to be entertained. And if you get into the engagement on a traditional podcast, or what you might think of a podcast, that big thing is all about the guest and the entertainment value, and really being out there as a personality, as the host of the podcast, which can make a big difference. The other thing, and this is important for marketers, especially if you're doing courses, that kind of thing, is the longevity of a podcast. If you are doing a traditional podcast where it's a guest, those ones tend to have a smaller shelf life because the topics that get discussed are often time sensitive, things that are going on today, things that are happening right now, or seasonal. On the other hand, if you're doing how-to podcasts, you're in a position where, hey, you got a process, you have some steps or an outcome, irrespective of whether or not it's today, tomorrow, next month, next year. In many cases, not all, but in many cases, the process or the steps are going to be consistent. So the shelf life of a how-to podcast can be much longer than a traditional podcast. So having said this, how does this all fit into everything? And I'm going to share this stuff with you, these two kind of big pieces that you have to decide on. And this is really excited. If you're an online course creator, how-to creator, you're thinking about this stuff, you have two choices when it comes to podcasting. Well, more than two, but I'm going to break it down into two, because it's easy to recommend or easy to think about right now. When most people think of a podcast, at least if you're a little bit older, you've been around a while, the focus was strictly on audio podcasts that went on to Spotify or any of these other platforms, iTunes at the time, where you listen to it only. I think the big thing, and why I'm covering this today, is that the platform for podcasting now is many times YouTube, when it's a video podcast, not just an audio podcast. So you can choose to host your podcast on YouTube and distribute it from YouTube. So you're taking your content, you're putting it out on YouTube, everything is there that you have, that's where it's distributed. On the other hand, some people may have a podcast that is a how-to material that they're going to host themselves on WordPress. And that's one of the things that we do. So there's a number of decisions you have to make. Is, am I going to host it on YouTube, or am I going to host it on my own WordPress site? And if you're not going to use WordPress, there's more to just having a channel on YouTube. You might want to have some kind of page or archive page that shares the story about your how-to podcast, the past series, the comments, everything that's there, and it's not just on YouTube. So the two tools I'm going to talk about today, and these are the ones that are kind of ones that you have to decide on, is if you are going to actually go and use YouTube to distribute it, or you want to have a separate place to distribute it that isn't your website, there's some great tools for hosting your podcasts, your how-to podcasts. So we're going to look at a couple of those. And then the second thing is, and this is the part that really is not frustrating, but it's something that I deal with on a regular basis, is if I go look at my Facebook page right now, or my stream on Facebook or LinkedIn or any place, because I'm involved in online courses and selling courses online, it's like all I see are ads and promotions for create a course, sell a course, you'll be rich. It doesn't happen that way. The biggest challenge for online course creators is promoting and selling their course. So I'm going to show you some AI tools. This is the same thing for using a podcast, exact same thing for doing how-to podcasts. It's one thing to create it, it's another thing to promote it. So I'm going to show you some websites or some tools that you can use that are AI-powered tools based on your how-to podcast that you can use to promote your podcast just as much as you're doing basically selling it. So get your pen ready. I'll put the links below, of course, to all of this. If you have any comments or want to find out how to do it, or just want this done for you, make sure to visit trainingsites.io. That agency site there will actually do everything for you. It's all it's done for you services, whether it comes to creating online courses, distributing online courses, building your own training site, selling them. That's the stuff that we do there. And as always, like and subscribe to the channel. If you like this content, we do these daily. So here's the first one I'm going to show you. This particular one is called capshow.com. And Capshow is it's a promotional service for you after you have your how-to podcast. So you got your podcast. What happens now? And what it does is it takes your how-to content and it creates promotional material based on content that you've created in your podcast. So you can start a free trial here. And again, I'll put all the links for. Go to the website capshow.com if you want some more details. The part that they're really focused on here is entrepreneurs who podcast, create YouTube videos, or do what I'm doing right now, which is live streaming. So if you're in content creation, if you have how-to material, you have online courses and are using podcasts to promote the courses, this is a particularly great tool for you. And the big thing that it does here for you is it allows you to use voiceovers or a persona in addition or overlaid on top of the content that you've created. Okay, so you can upload your conversation into Capshow and let our AI understand your unique style. So this is part of the parts that I talked about in ChatGPT and Claude, for example, where you can give custom instructions. One of the ones is take a look at my past material, use the same sentence structure, sentence length, technical terms, the reading style, writing style. This is one of the tools that Capshow does for you as well, so that the material that it creates, again, is unique to you. They have a complete marketing suite that's in here as well. And they have some videos that you can play to go take a look at that. But one of the things it allows you to do is generate leads, or they have a system in here for generate leads for the how-to podcasts that you're doing, being able to capturing leads or from the shows that you're doing and get them into your marketing system. Simple ways to make big edits. Again, you have a how-to podcast. There's pieces that you want to do. They have AI tools built into this that make cuts in your podcast that can actually be used. And it can actually start publishing these snippets or pieces of your podcast externally and allowed to do it. So there's a free trial in here. You can see some of the stuff like picking out key moments, video tags, SEO estimates, meta descriptions. There's a whole list of things that are here. Some of the other ones that are interesting at the bottom: checklists, lead magnets, social media posts, content from your own platform, the video clipping by smart identification, so it knows which person is which person. So this one's really interesting. They have a free one. Go check it out. That one's called capshow.com. The other one for promotion is called headliner.app. I think I covered this one in another video actually, separately. And it's a good idea to go and check these because even though I mentioned it maybe 4 or 5 months ago, there was one called tela.tv. The tool's completely changed in 4 or 5 months. So I looked at it at one point, I come back to it, it's got all of these new features I didn't know about. So headliner.app is another one. This one's a little bit more mature. This one is all about promoting and taking your audio and promoting it and fixing it up and cleaning it up. So it gives you a lot of tools or a number of tools that allow you to edit and make changes to your podcast. If you're doing a live stream, for example, and you want to make some cuts that are there. And again, audio to video. So if you have audio podcasts only that you've started to create or used, what you can do is upload these audios and it will actually create videos for you that can be used on YouTube. So a lot of times a how-to audio, you may be giving instructions, but it would be great if you had some visual components to it. This is a kind of tool that can repurpose or allow you to reuse some audio that you may have had in an audio podcast or a audio description and allow it to do that. Okay, so it allows you to promote your to social media, a number of the tools. Mobile, it's all here, all available, and they have some additional pages that are here. And welcome back. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. So let me just do that. So they have audiograms, transcriptions, promos of your podcast. So they'll take pieces out and promote it. And again, simple tool. Go take a look at that one. A little bit older as opposed to the previous one, Cap Show, but it's one that you should probably look at. Now, there's one that I haven't, let me bring this one in here. Yeah, there's one that I'm going to talk about just briefly because it is important as well, and that's Descript. Descript is one of the older tools, and again, I'll put the link below. But the big one was that it was allowing you to record a video and do edits based on the text when it do the video. They've added Underlord, which is another kind of add-on to it or improvement to it. So Descript is another one of those tools that allows you to make some edits and also promote or help you promote through social media, the other pieces, clips, that kind of thing. So I'll make sure to put that link in. And again, I've got another video on that. I'll try and put it in the bottom so you can play around with that. And I have a number of other YouTube content creators that have some great examples on how you might want to use that as well. So here's the other thing. Remember I talked about having it on, you choose between where am I going to host my how-to podcasts. I'm going to put it on my website, or maybe what you might want to do is go and use Podpage. Now, Podpage is a website builder that you can pay for that means you don't have to have a website. So if you are just into podcasting, you're just into doing how-to structured, timed, or sequenced podcasts on a regular basis, you're a content creator, this will actually create a website for you that is dedicated to your podcast and to the series that you're doing. And there's a whole bunch of great things that it does that are here. And the big one is it allows you, this is an important part to bring up. So it's SEO optimized, so the content is there and easily searched. You can do redirects, guest management, reviews, all of the things around a podcast that you would normally have to build out into a website. It's there specifically for you. Custom pages, host profiles, all of this stuff is here. Now, if you have it on your WordPress site, it's usually a plugin, and I'm going to show you one in a second, that links to somewhere else, or it might keep some of it, but it's not specific in the whole site is around a podcast. So this one is really great. Again, it's a way to have a course, but it's a how-to podcast done in a sequence. So that one's called Podpage. And on that one, where's the pricing on that one? It's pretty reasonable. You can get started for $12 a month, and you can import all of your podcasts pretty straightforward, even with your own domain. There's some additional pieces here on the prettier ones, for example, where they allow you to create some integrations with other tools like your email marketing list. And that one's $19 a month paid yearly. It's a little bit more expensive paid monthly. Now, there's another one called Podcast Page. So there was Podpage, Podcast page does the same thing. Get started for $12. Again, this one focused on all of the stuff that makes it easy for you. Built for podcasting, no coding, managed hosting, custom audio and player, so it's branded. You can easily import your audios or videos that you're creating, and it's all about engaging with the audience. And what I mean by that is allowing people to find out about the hosts and the guests, to be able to comment, to be able to download all of those pieces. And they actually have a free one to get started. All of these have a number of templates that allow you to basically have a place to host your site and be comfortable with it. Now, the other one I'm going to show you, this is the last one. There's so much you can talk about all of this podcasting stuff. The thing that I want you to noodle around is if you're not ready to make a course, or you are doing some kind of content that you're recording on YouTube or into an audio podcast, if it is how-to content, you can easily look at those pieces and put them together in what you might call a course. What's the difference between having a podcast and a course? Well, I think there's a couple things. The big one is that you're going to promise a specific outcome at the end of the series of podcasts. And more importantly, you are going to include additional resources and actions or action items that are involved in a course. I'm talking about things like checklists, being able to have workbooks, any of those additional materials, reference materials that are there, things like quizzes, certification, gamification, those things are all around courses. If you start with podcasts and how-to podcasts, those lessons that you want to put in your course, in fact, might be the episodes for your podcast that you are hosting either on one of these pages or if you're hosting on your own WordPress site. And that's where this one comes in. This one is one that I'm a customer of, and this one is called, let me open this one up, this one's called Castos. Reason Castos is kind of neat is because this is a plugin that you actually put on your WordPress site, and what it does is if you put your podcast on your website, it will automatically upload it to Castos. Castos does the distribution to all of the various distribution platforms like YouTube, like Spotify, like iTunes, and distributes it out, but it's on your website as well. A couple additional features in here, automatic transcriptions. Remember the thing I was talking about, Descript? Many of these tools, they actually allow you to get the transcription once the audio is brought up that you can use, whether that's in a newsletter or content on your website or blog posts or pieces that are used for social media. Very, very easy to use. The other thing that's here too is they have ads, dynamic ads that can be inserted into the content that plays on any of these additional channels or distribution places. And you can also accept payments from the podcast. So not only is it a course or possibly course, you can actually get paid to podcast, whether that's sponsors or people just sending you some cash there. So we got pod page, podcast page, cap show, Castos, and at the end of the day, you want to make sure that, let me just get rid of it. We won't show anymore. I got a lot more to tell you on these ones, but I want to bring this one in. Go take a look at these. Just think about your podcast and think, am I creating content now? What are the pieces of steps that I've created? Or I don't want to create a course. I just want to talk to other people or just talk about what I know, and I want to teach people about it. Just think about a podcast. Then you can use or record yourself, and then you can use these AI tools not only to organize it, cut it, transcribe it, but also put it together in either your own website, if you have WordPress, or even one of the tools that's here, and just be able to organize them in a way that makes sense as something as a course. And if you want to make some money with the podcast, use a tool like Castos, use a tool like CapShow to promote it. You can still earn money like that. On the other hand, if you want to create it into a course, then give us a call at trainingsites.io and we'll build out a learning campus for you so you can start, build, and grow your education business. Hope you enjoyed this. My name's James Maduke. Go visit trainingsites.io. Look below there, AI course, trainingsites.io/AI course. If you want me to actually create a course for you and with you, just go take a look at that, and we'll have a quick chat, and I'll do my best to help you out. So enjoyed this session. We'll see you tomorrow. Have fun. Take care. Expect the best. There we go.